What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube today, and today I am wrestling with myself. Horror fans, I'm sorry, there's going to be a lot more horror stuff and unboxings and unpackagings and fun horror things on the horizon for you guys, so you non-wrestling fans out there aren't suffering much longer. But it's a big day in wrestling for my wrestling viewers out there. They announced this morning, bright and early, that come the middle of July, not only is Smackdown going live on Tuesday nights, but there's going to be another brand split. This is something that we've looked forward to for quite some time now as fans. The product has seemed, even though the roster's great and getting very full, it has seemed very stagnant in the product recently. It feels like everything's kind of just staying the status quo and nothing interesting is really happening besides the signings outside coming to NXT. So now we finally got this brand split back for the first time in several years. And as long as it stays authentic and doesn't wind up being like it was at the end of the last brand split where, the SmackDown was just like the jobber show and all guys were on both shows and it just didn't feel original or separate at all. As long as it stays separate, I think this could be a much higher positive than negative. So I listed a few things out here on my little notepad. I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of the ups and downs of this, the positives and negatives as to why this could be a good or bad move. And I do eventually want to get into possibly doing my own draft. I want to do a fantasy draft with each person on the roster and see who winds up where and tell you guys why. So for right now, I'm just going to do positives and negatives. We'll start with the positives. I'm a positive guy, so we'll start with the positives here. The first thing is elevating SmackDown. SmackDown has been the B show forever. SmackDown has really had no acclaim at all since the SmackDown 6 years in 2002 when all the pro wrestler technicians were going at it like crazy and making the product feel special. SmackDown for the last decade has not felt special at all, and USA recently picked it up and they want it to feel special again, and this is the way to do it. The show's got to be live. There's just a very different feel and a very special feel when things are live as opposed to when they're taped. There's no spoilers. You feel like you got to tune in or you're going to miss something. Of course, going live, they're going to up the quality of the show as well, of course. And now with the brand split, now you're going to have two original shows with two different rosters and GMs and, hopefully entirely different crews, hopefully different writers, referees. It should feel totally authentic and different like it did at the beginning of the last brand split. And then people are going to have to watch SmackDown. You're going to have to watch Raw Monday and SmackDown Tuesday, and they're going to have 5 hours of must-see TV with original content with brand new people each week. So I'm looking forward to seeing how SmackDown gets elevated, which was a much-needed bump for the B show. We have creating competition. WWE, for the most part, has been stagnant, if for no other reason, more so than the fact that there's no competition now. TNA is not competition for anybody. Ring of Honor is competition for NXT. The Indies and NXT have a competition because they're signing the same style of wrestlers and they work the same style and they work the same kind of buildings and run on similar nights. But there's no competition for WWE's main roster. There's been no competition since WCW died in 2001. And it's made the writers stagnant, it's made creative stagnant, it's made some of the wrestlers stagnant. And it makes everything feel like there's no other game in town, so why should they have to try? Well, now, at least the Raw and SmackDown brands being separated, the rosters are going to try to one-up each other and having the best matches of the week. You're going to see the writers trying to outwrite each other and, focus on their best storylines and put the best show forward because each brand's cast and crew is going to want to win. So now, even though it's under the same umbrella and the same brand, you're at least going to have two competing brands with each other. So now, effectively, WWE has the top 3 brands in the world, if this works out the way it should. Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. They now are 1 through 3 and monopolizing the product, but at least there's going to be that Monday versus Tuesday competition to see who can do better each week. We also have raising up talent. There's a surplus of talent right now between all the NXT call-ups, all the recent signings from New Japan and the Indies. Raw's got a big wealth of talent right now and not a lot of spots with Seth Rollins and John Cena and Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt and Neville coming back very soon. You have way too many spots for too few guys, and this is a way now to elevate those mid-card guys who normally wouldn't be considered main event superstars and keep those guys from being lost in the shuffle. Once you get all these Cena and Orton and those guys back, you had to wonder where some of the indie guys were going to go. What's going to happen to some of these guys like a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens, and Neville, guys like that, once the big dogs return, so to speak. Now with 2 brands, you're going to see some of these guys from the undercard now being elevated to main event status and world championship status, much like it did for Benoit, for Guerrero, for Edge, for Rey Mysterio, guys like that in the original brand split. I think guys like Cesaro, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Bray Wyatt are all going to be world champions in the next 3 or 4 years now because of the brand split, and they're going to be consistently main eventers month to month now and raise their stock. So this creates twice as many stars because now you've got main eventers and world champions on both brands now. So you've got twice as many stars, and you're going to focus on the up-and-coming talent, finally. Also, for the undercard guys that aren't getting used on TV at all besides being in comedy angles, now there's 5 hours of TV each week to fill, and they're going to have to focus on more guys. So guys that were jobbers or not being used at all can now be on TV a little more. You might see guys like talented guys that get pushed past, like Zack Ryder, like Tyler Breeze, like Golden Truth and Fandango, these kind of comedy guys. As long as they put them in kind of longer term, more serious roles, you can see if some of these undercard guys can actually break through. So you're elevating the undercard guys as well. We have more signings and call-ups because of the fact that even though, like I said, Raw has too many guys for one brand, there's not enough guys to fill 2 rosters right now. There's too much for Raw, but there's too little for Raw and SmackDown. So because of this, we're going to be seeing 2 things. Number 1, a lot of call-ups and new signings from NXT. We've already seen a bunch in the last few months since WrestleMania. We're going to be seeing more because there's not enough yet. So you're probably going to see Finn Balor. You may see Samoa Joe, Nakamura, Austin Aries. You may see a wealth of these guys being called up from now until July to get them ready for this roster split. You may see a bunch of NXT guys drafted as part of the actual draft for the first time. So that's going to mean that a lot of these indie darling fan favorites we love so much in NXT are getting their shot now on the main roster, which they wouldn't have before if there was only one brand with no room for them. Also, this means when the NXT guys get called up, there's going to be new indie guys being brought in. You're going to have to replace and replenish the NXT talent because that brand still has to function and tour and make money as well. So when guys like Balor and Joe are called up, guys have to come in and fill those spots, which means Evolve, PWG, Ring of Honor, New Japan, look out because they are already apparently looking for talent. They have the Cruiserweight thing coming up next month. You're going to be seeing them pluck away a lot of guys. You're going to be seeing a lot of New Japan, Ring of Honor, PWG guys being signed to fill the NXT spots that are being taken up by this draft. Very exciting time to be a wrestler and a fan going into NXT. Also, we have more time between pay-per-views, hopefully. They could do 12 pay-per-views a year now, or 24. They could double it and do one for each brand because they have the network now and they can do whatever they want. And that would be an enticement for new buyers to buy the network. I don't like that idea. I would much rather these guys go and do one pay-per-view every other month, split it up like they used to, Raw, SmackDown, 6 per year, and then just do the big 4, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, as the co-jointed pay-per-views. Keep the other one separate, one every other month. This way you now have 8 to 10 weeks to build a storyline instead of just the regular 3 or 4 weeks rushing in show to show. Now you've got an actual 2.5 months to build these storylines, to build intriguing angles, and to actually get people invested in these matches for your pay-per-views and for your big events. So that's very exciting for the booking standpoint. And also we have less staleness and exposure. So many of these guys, you're seeing the same matches over and over again. We've seen countless examples of, the Usos and Roman Reigns against the Club and AJ, and just all these variations, Orton against Sheamus, and just all these horrible things they've done over and over again. Well, now with less exposure, you're only getting these guys once a week as opposed to at least twice a week. Now you're not seeing the same matches over and over and over in the same week again. You're also not getting, these guys constantly being out there doing the same shtick over and over again. It's going to help guys with interview patterns, like Roman Reigns, like Enzo and Cass. You're going to be seeing these guys less, and less is more. If you have to wait once a week to see these guys, instead of just seeing the same rehashes on SmackDown every single week, now you have 2 unique brands where you're waiting each week to see these guys come out and do something. Everyone's going to feel fresher, the matches are all going to be fresher, the build's going to be a lot better. For negatives, I mostly have kind of ponderings and what-ifs here. But the first thing is filler. There already seems like there's a lot of filler on Raw by itself in a 3-hour show with both brands together. Now you're going to split the brands apart, cut the roster in half, and have 5 hours of TV. That probably means about twice the filler. There's already too much comedy and filler on the show as it is, so this might get a lot worse. If the writing for these undercard guys is not very good, you're going to be seeing a lot of comedy gimmicks, a lot of filler, a lot of wasted time just trying to pass the hours by. I'm worried about that. Also, keep separate. I'm worried that they might try to cross over these champions, have the world champion, tag champions, and women's champion be on both brands. In theory, that's a good idea because less belts equal more. You want to have as few belts as possible and focus on the ones you have. But the problem with that is, if you have Roman Reigns and Charlotte and New Day going back and forth, then it oversaturates things. You have all these same faces on both brands. Or if you wanted to focus on them doing like once a month, Roman goes back and forth 1 month Raw, 1 month SmackDown, feuding with one guy from each brand, it either makes things very convoluted and confusing, or it leaves one brand without a champion to feud with somebody on their roster. It leaves one brand short of one of their major guys. So I think in this case, you actually want to create, put the women's division on one brand by itself. You can funnel the tag guys back and forth or put your tag division on one thing. But you really want to make sure you get a second world title. At least create a second world championship. Put the tag matches on, or the tag team championship matches on one show, the women's championship on another show, and then have your two separate champions. So both brands have something unique to fight for with somebody different. So you can headline with different people each time. Keeping it separate is important. You don't want crossover in this, unless you're going to WrestleMania or SummerSlam or one of the big shows. Champions, again, same point. That's what I was worried about. You don't want to oversaturate with belts, but you want to focus on making the U.S. and IC belts important. They can't just be filler now. Now that you only are going to have probably less belts per show, you're going to at least split the IC and the U.S. belt. You have to make those belts feel important again. And with the guys they're on right now, I think they could. And then writing. The biggest problem in WWE right now overall is the writing. The creative direction is horrible, and that's the issue, despite having one of the best rosters of all time. Again, any plan in general can be good or bad, but it's the execution that really counts. In theory, this brand split's a very good idea, but if the writing is the same sucky writing we have on Raw now, it's going to create 2 bad shows instead of 1. So again, you can split these rosters any way you want to and do whatever plans you have for either show. But if the writers are not doing a good job and they're creating bland storylines and repeats and fillers and all this stuff, all it's going to do is, like I said, make 2 bad shows as opposed to just Raw, a bad show. So the writing is the most important thing in the execution of this show. Have separate writers, have writers focus on particular storylines, cut down from your 30-something writers to like 4 or 5 writers, put 2 on each show or 3 on each show, and have them focus on different guys on the roster and make it mean something. So you can elevate the undercard guys and make your entire roster have programs that count. This way you can make the most out of your roster, make your undercard belts seem important, and have both brands have exclusive draws on them for fans wanting to watch both brands. So again, kind of long-winded, long spiel here. I eventually will do my draft for who I would put on each show and why and what they would do. But until then, what do you guys think of the brand split? Are you excited? Is it a good idea or bad idea? Do you think my pros and cons were good? If so, or if not, why not? Tell me in the comments down below. And again, guys, any further updates I will be posting on here, and I promise you horror fans, I'll get back to more horror and other things on this channel as well. But until the next opening bell, guys, I will see you all next time. Thank you.